Thousands of employees have been laid off in the last few months as a result of the erratic power supply. Now, government has not been able to give specific timelines as to when this will end. Question is, when at all will government fix the country's power crisis? Well, organized labor is giving an ultimatum to fix the power crisis now or risk the lives of many more workers. This is today's big story. My name is Aishi Vine. We'll be back shortly. Well, power generators, the Volta Revo Authority has often justified why it has not been able to generate the required capacity. Those reasons include lack of money to buy crude oil to power the thermal plants, while it is highly indebted by the Electricity Company of Ghana, up to the tune of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. So, former Chief Executive of VRA, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, warns the situation could get worse if government does not take steps to pay its old debts.
You know, I have said, let's deal with current problems before we think of future solutions. The power badge was touted as a short term, almost immediate. If you go back and read the minister's speech of January, he said in the short term, that's why I put those three figures up. 225 times 2, 250 times this. None of those things have happened. So therefore, they do not present the solution to the power crisis. However, if you are looking at making sure the power crisis does not come again, then insofar as we do not have anything planned to come in over the next 2 to 5 years, then there is a merit. If maybe you are too young to remember the strategic reserve plan. Maybe I should put it in that respect. We need a strategic reserve plan which will provide the reserve so that when plants are collapsing, then they can be switched on. I think the PURC chief explained that. So that you have to have the capacity sitting around, even if it's not generating. At the moment, we just seem to have capacity to meet the needs that we have. But we need to have capacity that is just sitting around. So far, if you have a force majeure like West African gas pipeline going down, or Abuasi going down, or Ghana Gas wanting to do maintenance, anything that you have which will affect the supply and demand side of the equation, you can switch it on. So there is a case for maybe looking at car power and those things that were labeled as emergencies as strategic reserve plans. But I make that with a caveat that, please, people are worried about cost efficiency both from the consumer side and also from the investor side, because if tariffs are too high, then they might move their investment to Nigeria or Ivory Coast or some other place which has got cost competencies. And the way you ensure that we get the best tariffs for any kind of power plant that we have is to open the whole thing up to transparency. That's the first point. Second point, when emergency becomes non-emergency, then all the add-on costs which you pay, that's why I gave the analogy of the lady going to sew a dress for Friday and today is Wednesday. You pay extra. Now that extra is not justified now. So we should look again at what are the options that we have for meeting the short-term need. So I'm saying that in the short term, that gap that we have before we do a proper planning of the system, we need to bring in a strategic reserve plant that will stand by and be able to meet all the exigencies of plants collapsing and also additional generation to meet the growing load.
What are these plants that you would cite?
They're not, no, they need, I mean, car power can be one. The SRP that we built were GE units that we bought. It does not really matter. All I'm saying is that, you see, there's a problem of control in this country. There are experts out there whose business is to provide power. Don't handpick somebody. Yesterday you heard Car Power saying that they are not an emergency plan producer. Well, why was the minister doing in June of 2014 telling us that they are emergency plan producer? There are people who produce and make power available as their business. Let's put up a request for proposal. We need X amount of power to inject into our system for so many years. Please bring us your proposals. That is what is called transparency. You know, it is absolutely absurd that Parliament wants a recall, or Parliament has not seen a contract signed with an international company. You know, these are issues that we must all address. Yes, in the short term, there might be need for power for maybe 3, 4, 5 years, whilst plans are being turned into real power projects. But whoever must supply that, we must procure that on a transparent, cost-effective, competitive basis.
So the issues are two. We're talking unemployment or people losing their jobs, and the fact that the power crisis has become the reason why people are losing their jobs. We'll be gauging the mood of a labor consultant and look at how this can affect the country. We'll also be looking for responses from government and also solicit some views from governance experts. Let's quickly jump onto the phone lines and speak with David Agbe. He's a governance expert. Good evening. We appreciate your time on today's big story.
Yes, good evening. I guess I'm speaking with Gifty.
My name is Aisha Ibrahim.
Yes, Aisha, thank you.
David, just in the space of 4 months, over 1,200 workers have lost their jobs as a result of the seemingly unending power crisis. Now, government has not been specific as to when this will end. Do you think it's a good relationship between government and its people?
I think that as we speak now, government has actually apologized on several times in that talking of its inability to provide us with, power.
But is only an apology enough for such a serious crisis?
It is not. It is not excusable to say that because government has actually apologized to Ghanaians, that is enough. But my point is that government has also indicated and actually told the whole country of a systematic approach with regards to the way they are going to resolve it. But as we speak now, what people are afraid of is the fact that government has not been able to convince us, because government indicated that by April, they are going to ensure that power is going to be a bit sustainable.
But we're in May already.
To bring a lot of budget such that it will be able to restore this kind of doomsday that Ghanaians are actually experiencing.
Just in 2 days, we'll be in May, and already people are suffering from an economy we think is not the best. And now people are already struggling to put 3 square meals on the tables of their families. And then people are now being laid off from their workplaces. And government is saying that we are apologizing because we cannot fix the problem now. You think it's a healthy thing to do as a government?
It is not. I'm saying that it is not. The government does not have any concrete excuse to give to Ghanaians. But what government needs to do now is to continuously to assure Ghanaians that the problem is going to be resolved. Although government has issued several statements, to say that they have a short-term measure, a long-term and medium-term measure. But government needs to communicate effectively to Ghanaians that yes, they are actually ready to solve these kind of crises that Ghanaians are actually going through. We've seen government, sending a lot of people outside to Turkey to go and witness the constructions of these power barges. But that one alone, it is not enough. The government needs to actually be in touch with the people communicate creatively. This is the time that government needs to invite professionals, people who have the know-how, the competence to actually communicate. Because when you are in a crisis, you need people with a certain level of, credibility in the society to actually communicate.
But David, haven't we gotten to the point? Haven't we gotten to the point we have to go beyond communication? Hasn't there been enough talks? Okay, I will hold you on and I'll pick Austin Game. He's a labor consultant. After him, I'll engage you on that matter. Good evening, Mr. Austin Game. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
From January to April, we've seen over 1,200 workers who have lost their jobs, and the list continues. And the question remains, when will this end? Looking at the situation, what do you think has been the problem?
Thank you. Thank you. Let's be honest. When it comes to the question of investing and getting a matter such as a huge electricity matter or power matter in general, it cannot certainly be one day matter. I'm an employer, I'm facing it myself. We are using generator to try and enable us to do our work. It's costing us so much. So I'm concerned as well. I don't know how other countries are suffocating under the same thing, but the reality is that we are confronted with this situation here in Ghana. People are going home, not just because of maybe the power, also because of cost in general, such as the fluctuating prices in other things and exchange rates, etc., etc. So this kind of situation will require a certain level of tolerance on the part of all of us. So it's done and done once and for all. Me, when I hear people looking for somebody to blame, I agree. When you are a government and you are in power and you are to take care of people, obviously when there is something, you are the first person we have to call upon. So there is nothing wrong calling upon government to fix it. But we have to understand that it does not and will not take 5 days to fix energy problem. So a lot of tolerance, a lot of patience will be required for this thing to be done. So I agree that generally speaking, when I'm going to sleep and it's a problem and I have to buy fuel to power the generator or with the work, because our net must be running 24 hours, we cannot afford not to have it.
Mr. Gambe, the issue...
So when we don't have light, it's a problem.
The issue...
So people will have to appreciate the fact that we are confronted with it. We have to find ways and means of having a lasting solution to it. It cannot be a one-day matter.
Mr. Gambi, the issue is more serious than going to bed in the dark, because companies are also folding up because they don't have energy, they don't have power to work with, and the already struggling Ghanaian worker is now sitting home having nothing to spend. You think, what are the implications of many young people being laid off for this country?
I am not unaware that many people are being laid off. My friends in the CUC update me every now and then when I meet them about the situation they are going through. I myself, as a consultant, I meet the situation from time to time. So I can guarantee you that people are going home, people are losing their jobs, and
you can't blame the companies too.
You cannot blame the company. It's not a deliberate thing on their part.
Okay.
They are confronted with huge challenges.
Okay.
What will be required will be for us to pull together into one direction and finding a way of solving the problem. It's not about running riot around about the issue.
Okay.
And nobody should have any illusion that this is a 7-day matter. It's not. That is where the deception is.
Okay.
Once people, from political point of view, are assuming that, I mean, this is not the first government in Ghana.
But Mr. Gambe, we understand the fact that we need to be patient, but it becomes worrying when government tells us that in April we'll fix the problem or we'll relieve you of some of the power problems. And April comes and we're getting to May and there is nothing like that. That is where the problem becomes worrying.
I agree with you. I'm worried myself as well. And so therefore our colleagues who are said not to be politicians and are they are the technocrats, they are the engineers who look at the work they are doing and tell the minister and tell the other people that this can be done in 5 days' time, in 20 days' time, and the president relies on them and come and announce to all of us that April, May, June, that should cease. They should be very firm in their commitment by saying that we cannot afford to do this now, we can afford to do it X period. Everybody will then plan. At the moment, we are unable to plan properly because we are unsure about what the next move will be.
Okay.
But now we have been told that before the end of the year, they will be able to bring in the budgets, they'll be able to do A, B, C, D, and so forth and so on. Let's take that on board and see how it will be. By the end of the year, if we are unable to fix it, have it fixed for all of us, then we all know that it's a tough day days ahead. But for now, that is just about the way it is. It's very tough. I know South Africa is going through the same situation. That's why they are even going through that kind of xenophobic kind of situation. But so we just have to be patient and let's not run our nation aground furthermore.
Well, we can't compare Ghana to South Africa, but I'll have you hold and go onto the other line and speak with David Agbe, who is a governance expert. David, government has not been able to be specific because President Mahama himself has come out to say that he's given a different timeline. His ministers have also given different timelines, and it keeps going on and on and on. Why should we be going through this as a country, and why should government be seen to not to be feeling for the people of the country?
Yes, Aisha, I think that Mr. Austin Game has actually added to what I said earlier on, that when you are in a crisis situation, a turbulent situation, what you need to do and what we all need to appreciate is the fact that you cannot use 7 days or 1 week to solve a crisis situation.
Okay.
But what government needs to do is to be in touch with the people, to communicate creatively with the people, and really appoint people who are very professional, who are good frontliners, to be able to assure the country that yes, we will be able to resolve your problems for you. But when you just put some political communicators who are not well sound enough, then it gives a certain impression to the country that we are not in to be able to resolve the problem. But when we see our professionals, when we see people of a certain caliber in our society communicating, telling citizens that yes, the government is so much committed to the problem, it is a crisis situation which will take a longer period of time to be able to resolve all these stuff, then we know that yes, government has actually positioned itself and it is communicating, because communication is very critical as far as governance processes are concerned.
Well, we've been trying to get government to also give us some responses, but is it something difficult? We need timelines. We need to know that on May 25 we will get an end to this crisis.
Crisis situation all over the world. You cannot give a specific timeline of resolving a problem.
But do you see
a strategy is to be able to communicate your strategy, is to be able to communicate your plans, your activities, to tell the citizens that this is the way we are resolving the problem. So we expect that by June or by September or by the end of this year, don't forget that Dr. Kobina Donko assured the whole country that by end of this year, he was being very specific, that by end of this year, if the energy crisis continues to exist, then he is going to resign.
Don't you think that because government has given a lot of timelines and has not been able to meet, we cannot take Dr. Kobina Donko seriously?
For me, I think that he is the first gentleman who has come out to say, to tell Ghanaians that if the energy crisis persists, by the close of this year, he is going to resign. So why don't we take his word seriously and also ensure and task government that government actually has a responsibility to ensure that everybody has access to power so that we can actually empower our industries. Here you are talking about some of the industries starting their employees here and there because of a security threat to the country. But government needs to be in touch with its people. Government needs to continuously assure its people. And that is why government has sent some journalists and other experts to Turkey to witness what they are actually doing. I heard one of the parliamentarians, I think Honorable Amankwa from the Eastern region, saying that yes, they visited the place, they are constructing or they are building the plant, so it is going to delay. I've also heard some journalists also saying that yes, the government is actually working on. But how soon? When are we going to, get the program resolved?
How
and that
soon?
is why I'm saying that yes, it is a long-term, situation because it is a crisis. So we all need to be a little bit, although it is a very serious situation, but we do not have any choice now. We do not have an alternative. We can't say that tomorrow government, you have the mandate. You have to solve it by tomorrow. We cannot do that.
Well,
so
many thanks to you, David Agbe. That's all time will allow us. We appreciate your time. Let's get on to the other phone line where Austin Game is there. Mr. Game, we're talking about people who would have to wait till December, end of this year, for our energy crisis to be resolved so that they can go back to work. That's if the company wishes to call them back, or so that they can get new jobs. You think hungry people can sit down and wait patiently till December when the power crisis is resolved? What are the implications for the country? We have at the back of our minds that there is uprising issues. There are issues of young people who would be who Satan will give work because they are idle hands, and all of that. You think it's a healthy thing for a country like Ghana?
Aisha, I appreciate that, and I cannot but to agree with David also that look, it's because perhaps we have been pressurizing government to give timelines. They have given timelines and they've all not worked. Let's be honest. Energy problems across the world is very, very tough. And when it is done, it's done. We have not invested over the years very well. This is the first time we are confronted with a situation because of expansion in industry and in technology and in population. And so therefore we are confronted with this situation and we must accept the challenge. And I agree that we need to communicate this matter in such a holistic manner that we don't need to be revisiting it from time to time.
That's right.
The truth is that the matter cannot be resolved within 3 months, within 4 months. Towards the end of this year, perhaps, we should be able to have this matter behind us. If they are able to do it before the end of the year, then it's a plus. But I think, like the Minister, Honorable Minister Koblado said, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and let's allow the process to go through and let's see where this will end. Now, concerning the people who are really, really reeling under this pressure, indeed all of us, but those who have been let go to their homes because of this situation, we empathize with them. Nonetheless, no employer would like to train people and have them, to go without making provision for the future. Once this matter, the energy matter is resolved, many of the people who have been sent home will be recalled because they have already been trained. They know how to operate the machines and do the work, the processes for the owner. And so they might be recalled. In the meantime, they have been paid some redundancy money. They will have to find ways and means of investing it and keep going until this matter is over.
Well, Mr. Austin Game, let me put you on hold for one more second because Occupy Ghana is also calling on all workers, all Ghanaian workers, to wear red attire on Friday, May 1, 2015 to protest the worsening economic conditions in the country. And,
from a professional point of view,
Mr. Game, let's hold you on and listen to some sounds from the Occupy Ghana press conference. Let's hold on for a second and listen to some sounds from the press conference.
Asking that the significance of May Day on this particular May Day should be shifted. Let it become a voice of protest and a voice of complaint to the government. Let them understand clearly that as much as we are not going to walk the streets attempting to destroy anything and create mayhem, we are at least going to register our protests by making sure that we symbolize the day with something red. A red shoe, a red scarf, a red pair of earrings, a red pair of socks, anything that we can think of that will enhance that day. But we also have to be careful In as much as we support everything that is being done, we are also very, very big advocates of ensuring that you do not give everything away for nothing. Whilst the workers themselves are protesting and complaining, we also have to ensure that Ghana is not being shafted because of low productivity, low attendance, and the low inability of us to be able to use the particular workforce that we have to cause our problems to be fixed.
But I'm also aware that organized labor is advising its members not to engage in any protest nor misconduct themselves during the May 1st Workers' Day celebration. But the question remains, do we always need to protest, or do we need to go on demonstrations to get our issues resolved by government, Mr. Game? We lost Mr. Game on the line. We're talking about the power crisis that has resolved to many workers losing their jobs and many companies also folding up in the event of the fact that government has not been able to be specific on when this power crisis will end. Well, Imani Ghana has also supported Occupy Ghana on this call that people should wear red handbands to protest that government should resolve the power crisis and also the economic crisis. Let's listen to some sounds from there too.
Actually using our legitimate means to voice our, if you like, our opinions and our opposition to some of the things that are happening. And I could think that, yes, don't for once think these things are not heard. They are heard. The challenge has always been the fact that clearly the authorities are at their wits' end, but you need to keep expressing yourselves. As you know, it's better than pouring water on some government officials who go around saying that the country is doing well. At least this is a very legitimate means of expressing, and if authority doesn't listen, others may find other means of, venting their anger, even though we don't endorse that at all. For instance, I've heard yesterday that some minister was heckled in the eastern region for simply going to commission a project. Now, we don't want to toe that line. We essentially would say to them in Accra and say to them in Accra that, look, you've got to be serious about these things because people are actually suffering. And if you do not listen, then others may decide to do what they are doing, which is, again, not right. But somehow you've got to listen. So I think we need to keep speaking.
Forward to bringing you sounds of the TUC General Secretary, who is giving government an ultimatum that government must fix the power crisis, and the time is now. We'll be back shortly with Joy News Interactive.